Hello, fellow gamers. This is Tim, SamY7 again, coming back at you with another review. Today I'm going to review H.A.R.P, which is High Adventure Role Playing. It's made by Iron Crown Enterprises, or I.C.E, of Rolemaster fame, or infamy. uh, I grew up on Rolemaster. Rolemaster was pretty much my first beefy RPG that I ever played. And I grew up on the standard system, not the older version of the game, which seems to be having a comeback these days. But anyway, High Adventure Role Playing is a D100 engine that adds stat to the roll. So you'll have to roll a D100 and then add some skills, which incorporate the stat that you already have. So the skills already incorporate the stat bonuses. So basically, it's D100 plus skill, and you usually have to get above 100 to succeed. And that's pretty much the engine of the game. There are some charts, but they're very minor compared to Rolemaster. H.A.R.P is often called Rolemaster's younger little cousin, so it has some similarities. If you have a bunch of Rolemaster books sitting around somewhere, then yeah, you might be able to use some of the items, or if you have any MERP modules, which is Middle Earth Role Playing, it's probably easy to convert the items over to H.A.R.P. I know there's a French version of Middle Earth that uses H.A.R.P. What's nice about Google is you can actually translate the website, and so you can read it in English. And I'll try to find a link, and I'll link to that on the side. But H.A.R.P, what's good about it? What's neat about it? It comes in one book. This is the entire rule system. So compared to Dungeons and Dragons, where you have 3 books, this has monsters. This has a GM section. This has a player generation system, and it's still a little chunky. It's still a little crunchy. I'd say it's a little bit crunchier than Dungeons and Dragons in some ways. In other ways, it's not, because with Dungeons and Dragons, it's kind of mandatory that you use miniatures, and with 4th edition even more so. And with H.A.R.P, that isn't the case. So it kind of harkens a little bit more back to the original role-playing games without attacks of opportunity and so forth. There are a few things in there for bonuses for being like behind somebody, but not too much. What I like about H.A.R.P is that they put out several additional books, and instead of make them, okay, here's a bunch of rules, they to add on to what's in the book, they're considered optional. So as a GM, you don't have to always follow all the rules in all of these books if you don't want to. And things have kind of slowed down a little bit in recent years. I believe the game came out in 2004. And well, anyway, it has 8 stats instead of like 6 like D&D. There are a lot more skills, but I kind of like a game with more skills. I think there's pros and cons, I guess, for it. It sometimes makes it longer to generate a character, but it's kind of nice to be able to flesh out your character that way, so that your character isn't so much cookie cutter, which can happen when you have like less skills, or I don't know. The nice thing about this game is there's professions, which are kind of replace the classes in D&D, but there really isn't that much to them. They pretty much tell you what makes how much your classes, or how much your skills cost, with some minor bonuses. They have talents instead of feats, which if you didn't know, Rolemaster came out with talents a long time ago, before the whole feat thing in Dungeons and Dragons. But so it has feats, in the form of talents. There's kind of like prestige classes, but they're not. They're like training packages, which is the same as what Rolemaster had, sort of. What I really like is about the races. The races only have three abilities, and they give bonuses to other things. But what's nice is if you're making your own races, it's pretty easy to make a race with 3 special benefits. And what's also nice is that you can play half races. You can play, half elf, half dwarf, and you just pick and choose how many, which special abilities from which race you want. So if you want 2 dwarf special abilities and 1 elf special ability, that's how you make your race. And it's pretty simple. It's sweet. You also buy your talents, your skill ranks, and these talents. So unlike D&D, that's very rigid. Like you get so many feats at so many levels, and you get this at this many. If you want to, at first level, you can spend all of your developmental points. That's pretty much what everything costs. Um, like if you have a skill that your profession is supposed to be good at, it costs 2 developmental points. And if you have a skill that you're not really as good at, it costs 4 per rank. And depending on the bonus, you get depending on what rank you put in your skill, you get a different bonus. So I think it's like 1 in 10 is a +5 bonus, and then it kind of peters out the higher you get, which is supposed to show the learning curve, which it makes it a little difficult for new players, but it's more realistic, which is kind of nice. Um, I was a fanboy for H.A.R.P for a while. I've kind of cooled off. The fires of fanboyism have not I don't know, they've kind of gone down a little bit. I really like a lot of parts of H.A.R.P, and there's just some parts that I couldn't really get players to latch on to. I like that it's very flexible. Like I was saying, at first level, you can sync all your DPs into talents if you want. So if you want to have a really bizarre guy with lots of different, special bonuses, you can do that. But then you wouldn't have as many to put in your skills. So I like that it's flexible. I like that you can pretty much come up with any sort of character idea, and you can have it. It's mostly a fantasy game, but I don't think it'd be too hard to move this over to something else. There are no stats for guns or anything like that, so I mean it's mostly just a fantasy game. But they are coming out with a sci-fi game for H.A.R.P. I believe it's just called H.A.R.P Sci-Fi. It's been in the works for a while, and I think it's supposed to come out within this year, but I could be wrong. That's pretty much it. I like the races. I like how easy it is to make races for it. I've been trying to make races for Pathfinder, and it was a little bit more difficult than when I made races for H.A.R.P. So that's pretty much it. It's a D100 system. It's fantasy. It's crunchy, but like I said, it's only one rule book. So in terms of volume, D&D is like out of here somewhere, and there's less to read as a GM. You just kind of have to. It's a different system, so to grok it, you have to sit down and read it. But I enjoyed H.A.R.P. I've ran several play-by-post games. I've ran several one-shots of it, but I could never get players to fully commit and run a campaign of it. And for me, see, I would love this game as a player because I tend to like more crunchy games as a player, but as a GM, I'm definitely more of a rules light and rules medium guy these days. And it borders on rules heavy at times. And the biggest detractor I think, which I think this game would do a lot better, is if it involved a little less math. Now, some people's gonna say, well, you're just a stupid American and you can't do math in your head, but I think maybe like a 2d10, basically a d20 would, just divide everything by 5 would be nice if they designed the system around that. There is a H.A.R.P D20 download for free that you can get off of the H.A.R.P website, which I used several times for my one-shots, and that did help. That helped out, especially with the players. They didn't need, to bring a calculator to the game table. So that's probably one of the biggest detractors of it. What's nice is that you can use Rollmaster and MERP with it because of its system, but for modern players, especially those who've played the World of Darkness game, when there is really no math at all, you just compare numbers. Oh, how many do I have? Okay. This you actually have to add. So I don't know. I really like H.A.R.P. I have pretty much all the modules and all the books that they ever put out for it, and they're all very interesting. It's just black and white